All right, welcome back to another rendition of the Blind Pig. This one's going to be a little bit of an emergency pod. Is that what they call it?
A react pod.
Sure. That's right. So we're going to break down the schedule, but that's not going to take the whole time because we've all already seen it. It's leaked and everybody already has their opinions. But the first question, I want to throw a couple questions out there, and we were just talking before we started recording, was one, Aaron Rodgers, member of the Washington football team.
No. I'm not a fan of it, and I know I'm taking a little bit of a beating on Twitter because of that. But I think I know he's a great quarterback. There's no question about that. That's not the debate. The debate is he's 30. He'll be 38, I believe, this season. Could probably take a lot to get him here. Not some of the silly rumors I've seen on Twitter where we're going to swap first rounders with him or give him Matt Ioannidis. That seems to be a popular one. It's going to take a lot to get him, and I'm not saying maybe we would go to a Super Bowl. Hell, maybe we'd win a Super Bowl, and that's certainly a desirable thing, but it's not the only thing. And I'd rather have a long period of sustained success where we're in the playoffs every year and threatening to go deep in the playoffs. I'd rather have that than a couple of years of glory with Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, I don't really like very much, but that's my personal opinion.
The minute he walks in the door, right, he's the man, and it's all about Aaron Rodgers, and it's no longer about Chase Young and Montez Sweat and Payne and Allen and Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin. It's like the anti-Rivera culture guy.
Yes.
And yeah, I'd love to see him. If he just said, I'll come in and play for 2 years for vet minimum and then I'll leave, then we'll talk. But that's not going to happen. You're going to pay him a quarter of your cap and you're going to tie up all that money where you need to re-sign all of those people we just talked about. So I just think it's a mess. And like John, I don't like the guy. So no, thank you.
And the fact that we'd have to just take his contract on. He's not proven to win here, so we're going to pay him 30-something million to maybe take us to a Super Bowl that we're hinging on him. Like, he hasn't done it except one time. He's only won one Super Bowl. He's not worth the money he's getting, but he has somehow ransomed Green Bay into paying him over and over again. We don't need to do that. We've got Fitzpatrick coming in that is going to do his thing, and we got Heineke and Allen behind him that we need to find out this year. We don't need the distraction. And we also, like we were talking about on the board, we don't really have an identity on offense. We don't. McLaurin is great, but he's the only one. So we're not a passing team. Gibson, I love Gibson, but he got hurt and he's also only going in a second year. So we're not a rushing team. We need to establish an identity. And Rodgers, like you said, Mark, all about him immediately. And that kills everything in the locker room. And I don't want that. I just don't want it.
So the biggest concerns I've had and I've seen, and they're the most valid concerns about not bringing in Rodgers, because he is an all-pro, he's a Pro Bowler, he's a Super Bowl, he's a league MVP, all of that. If we could have Aaron Rodgers for 5 seasons, I think I have to pull that trigger. And I'm saying
starting at 30 million or whatever.
I would have to greatly consider that
for
5 seasons.
I hear you.
I don't want 2. I don't want 1 and he decides to retire to go to Jeopardy. But 5 years, I think, is worth 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders. But that's just because
3-year-old not named Warren Moon or Drew or Tom
Brady. I know.
Worth it at 4. You're talking 5 years. In 2 years, he's 40.
I know. But he also has almost doubled the team record in touchdowns in a single season. I mean, the guy has a different ability. He's a diva. He's whiny. I said I would consider it. I didn't say I would pull the trigger. I said it would make me think about it.
Postseason, what does he do? That's when the money matters, because Dan Marino was setting records for years and never did it.
That's fair, but Rodgers has also been in the NFC Championship game the last 3 seasons.
He's a great quarterback. You can't argue it. If you're not for it, it's got to be because of his age, what it would cost to get him.
Right.
And the fact that he's a diva and none of us like him.
Yeah, well, we're in the minority there.
No, I didn't say I would. I get the rest of it, but if you could guarantee me 5 seasons, that might make me seriously consider it. Now, there's no way to do that. there's no way to guarantee 5 seasons. So I get it's a whole hypothetical thing. I don't think we're going after him anyways, because if we're not going to be willing to trade more than a first and a third for a guy like Stafford, or
Yeah.
make a move within the draft, I don't see us spending that kind of money on Aaron Rodgers.
I don't see him wanting to come here under any circumstances. I just think that's
kind of dumb, actually, because
I
he
don't
says
think it's
Oakland and Denver are his two, or the Vegas and Denver is. What do they have that we don't have? A top 5 defense?
beaches and ski slope, man.
And coaches that he
Yeah.
can push around a little bit. He ain't pushing Rivera around. I don't think Ron wants the guy here at all. I don't think he doesn't do diva, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I think we're a no.
Yeah, I think we're a no. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing out hypothetical.
Pretty consensus.
I would be remiss on a more sad note not to mention the fact that this past week was a little emotional. We heard of the passing of Colt Brennan. Kind of a sad story. I guess I started looking into him a little bit. I've heard some reports about him. He ran into some tough times a couple years ago and fell into some pretty bad drug habits and alcohol. And he was actually at a rehab facility when they found him. So that's pretty unfortunate. I'm not asking anybody to really comment, I guess, as much as I just wanted to kind of throw it out there because that was kind of a weird shock. Nobody really saw it. 37 years old, you know, he was the cult of Colt on the board that we will not mention was a major thing, and it was real, and it was heavy in that season with Jason Campbell and Todd Collins, and people were wanting to see that guy play some football, and he was legit in college. He looked really good in the preseason, and he just never had a chance. You wonder if it was his attitude, his work ethic, who knows, but it was sad to hear that news this week.
Yeah, I became a University of Hawaii Rainbows at the time, a Rainbows fan. I think they're the Warriors now, maybe. But anyway, that was before Colt Brennan's time. But so I had a special interest in him because he's literally like royalty in Hawaii. And I don't know about you guys, but I just felt like, I'm sure if I went back and watched this season, I might look at it differently, but I just never felt like he got a legit chance, a sustained chance to really be under center to know. I never felt like we really knew, could he make something of himself in the NFL, but it's kind of sad that he never got that chance.
I don't want to dwell on it either, but I was thinking about Colt earlier today in terms of when you've been the man, and he was truly the man in Hawaii, right? He was the superstar, the golden haired boy, literally. And when you fall on hard times and you lose all of that, that's harder than never having it at all. It's got to be, right? And it's, you know, a lot of guys go through that. They hit Ryan Leaf. Is anyone going to be surprised if Ryan Leaf crashes and burns for real at some point? But anyway, I had a moment and thought about Colt, and that had to have been a tough go for him. I feel for his family.
He had a traumatic brain injury too, so you can't discount. Since I work in a place where we take care of people with traumatic brain injuries, I mean, that changes everything. Even setting aside like what happened to you as far as your aspirations, it changes everything.
That was from a car accident, and his girlfriend died, if I believe, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
That right there will send any man over the edge. The love of your life dies next to you in a car, and you wake up a week later. I don't mess with you, man. Yeah. I mean, like I said on the board, it's just it's probably got to be the hardest thing for a father to bury their child. It's something I fear every day as a father of 3 that I would have to one day, you know, and I pray every night for safety for my children. So I can't even imagine what the family's going through. I will say, to end this on a bright note, that Thanksgiving game down in Dallas where we beat them, and him and Cooley taking pictures in the end zone.
In the end zone was one of the best pictures. Yeah.
One of the most genuine smiles and just pure joy. And that's how I'll remember the guy.
Yep, absolutely.
Colt Brennan, we hardly knew you, brother.
Right. Cheers.
Godspeed.
To double down a little bit, Mark, you mentioned Ryan Leaf. It's kind of funny. I don't know if you've kept up with him at all.
Not in the last year or two, I think, but I kept hearing his name in bad context.
Not anymore. He's like he counsels professional athletes now.
Well, I may have heard that now that you mentioned it.
He goes around and he's like,
don't be me.
He done anything yet. So don't sit here and act like you're somebody. The league owes you something. He's come on the radio numerous times, and he's been flat out and said, "I wish somebody would have sat me down and looked me in the face and said, you mean nothing. You got drafted number 2 or number 1 or whatever. That means nothing. Now the work starts." And he said he wished he could have realized that early on. So
good for him.
Todd
he was
Martinovich, was that the other guy?
Drafted. Who went number 1 in that draft?
Peyton Manning.
Yep.
Todd, what? What'd you say?
Todd Martinovich was another guy. Remember that guy?
Robo QB.
Robo QB.
Yeah, Dad raised him from like a little, like Tiger Woods kind of a thing. Really sad.
Yeah, once his dad let him go to college and he had his first like Twinkie, he had never had sugar in his life. And he's like, fuck this, man.
So without further ado, I can share the screen, or if we can just talk it up. I'm sure you want me to throw it up there.
Yeah, pop it up there for a minute.
Let me pull this.
Pull it out, Derek. Just pull it on out.
It'll let me
whip it out, Derek.
It'll let me pour another beer without you guys seeing me do it. So this is as of whatever. So official, this thing got leaked everywhere, but I think instant reaction. I know Mike is going to be so depressed to find out we don't play on Thanksgiving.
Super depressed. I hate those games.
Well, I think the instant reaction that everyone has to have right out of the gate is 5 straight NFC East games to close the season. That is insane. I don't know how I feel about it, but I just can't believe that they set it up that way, because you could have one set of standings going into that week, week 14, and then have a total upheaval by the end of the season as far as who's leading the division, who's going to the playoffs. It's going to be kind of crazy. So to me, to play all of those games and not really get to the meat of the NFC East schedule till week 14, that's kind of unprecedented. I've never seen anything like that before.
That could be good or bad, right? If you're in the lead, it makes you nervous as hell. But if you're still 2-3 games back, you're thinking we're in this.
It's going to make injuries and health more important, which should be a scary thing for Washington fans with our history.
If anyone's going to motivate you on those last 5 games, it's Ron Rivera, who will just chew you out, pick you up, dust your butt off, and kick you back in the game. I mean, I love those locker room talks by him. I'm actually happy to see this, because this is our destiny in our own hands. It's not going to be about, well, if Dallas loses 2, then we win 2. It's right there. If we beat Dallas twice, they lose twice, we're up. And nobody will be able to do anything about it. They won't be able to say, oh, they backed their way in. No, we were going to earn this one. Because we've got, if you look right above it, is Tampa and Seattle and Carolina right there, 3 in a row. Right before it, it's time to get it on. We're going to control our destiny this year. God, that's a hard ass schedule though.
I haven't had time to go through it fully, but I don't think this is an accident, and I don't think it's just the NFC East. From what little I could tell, the NFL went out of their way with several. I think I went through 4 or 5 teams, and they're all have these heavily concentrated division schedules at the end. I love it. I think it's kind of a game changer if this is going to be the new way they do it. Although we got Dallas sandwiching Philly, right? You got 1 week in between those games. Oh well, whatever, man. It's like get it on at that point.
The bye is smack dab in the middle of the schedule, which I think most fans probably prefer that.
Agreed.
I know we've had a couple seasons where it was way early, and that just never feels. In fact, it seems like we've had a lot of those where we got the bye way before we really needed it. So I like that.
Week 9 is about perfect.
So we were talking earlier. We were talking earlier about how tough the schedule was, and I posted up a stat somebody put up on social media yesterday. I think it showed that in 2020 our combined opponents' records were just barely over 500, which it's kind of hard to believe that, because you did have like 6 teams that won 11 games or more in 2020, but then the other teams that are on our schedule this year, there were a lot of stinker seasons,
like including 6 divisional opponents that did not win the 7 and 9 division.
Right. Yeah, the NFC East was terrible.
That brought that average down. But then what jumps out at me the most is you hit early. You got at Buffalo, at Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's not necessarily somebody that you fear, but at the same time, their offense can score points. So
Matty Ice is done as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think they drafted a QB.
Who's that?
And Julio Jones has once again been used as trade bait. You know, that dude's gonna get sick of it.
You don't. That's not a gimme, man. Matt can still play, but I don't fear them.
It's a winnable game.
We go into that dead even with them. I think
it's a winnable game, but they can score points. New Orleans, who knows what's going to happen? They don't really scare me because of their quarterback situation. But
this is the year that New Orleans comes back to the pack in a big way. I think because who's your quarterback? They don't know who their quarterback is.
I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing for half the season down there. You'll see Jameis, and then you'll see
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and you're not going to see Ian Book until they're have 4 wins in week 16 or whatever. But
yep, and then
I like that game. So I got to just looking big picture at this. I was wondering before it came out about the national game thing and what the league might think of us and what the networks think of us. We've got 3 nationally scheduled games, very likely to be 4 coming out of the bye. Tampa Bay, there's not a time set for that, which tells me that's available for flex. We may be looking
on this schedule. There's a time.
We might be looking at 3. We're minimum 3 national games for a team that went 7-9 last year. I think they think we're coming.
Well, and the other one is the Philly game again, week 15 at Philadelphia. One's to be determined also. So that could be flexed out to a Sunday night game. For whatever reason, they love putting us on prime time against the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't think any Washington fans of any era really like to see us on off-schedule games because it just seems like we don't show up as often as we should, even when we're not against major opponents.
Well, up until the last couple of years, we've kind of turned that around, right? We went up to Pittsburgh and beat the undefeated Steelers last year on national TV. That was,
you're right. You're right. It's a different day, but I got 35 years of.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Cleansing that has to happen.
35 years of pain and suffering.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm up here in Steeler country, and they were talking to me the next day, and they were like, "You didn't blitz. Your team is that good on defense that you didn't even really blitz. You just hit us." And I went, "Yeah." And they knew we were prepared. We were prepared to come in there, and we had our game plan, and we stuck to it. This isn't. I don't think this is Jay Gruden anymore, where you just kind of stand there, and abandon the run after 10 carries, and and just roll over. Ron Rivera, especially now that Rivera is not going to be dealing with the big C word, he can fully focus and his intensity will be back. Because Ron Rivera, since his days in San Diego, is just an intense dude. He is up in your face and he is screaming. Because he's a linebacker. That's what they do, But I think this year we come out just full guns blazing.
It's not just the whole cancer thing. Hopefully being behind him, he was handling all of the GM duties, and now he's got Hurney and Mayhew. So a lot of that weight, he's going to be able to focus on the football stuff a lot more.
And the Snyder stuff and the name change. I mean, the guy walked into an inferno, put it out, and took us to the playoffs while dealing with cancer.
And now everybody's looking at us like we're a team on the rise. It's kind of funny. Like John said it on the board today. And it feels like he's been here 3.5 years redoing this, and the guy's he's barely been here 18 months. It's just been not even that long. So I guess the part that I'm looking at on this schedule, the Buffalo game, that's going to be tough at Buffalo. I'd rather play them in September than in December, though.
Bingo.
Then when
they're still trying to get it together. Week 3, they're not going to be Josh Allen to Diggs might not be on money right there. They might still be figuring it out themselves.
And then week 6, 7, 8, and 10 are the ones that we're going to have to really show up. And I know Denver's sprinkled in there, but I don't know that I fully fear them given what's on either side. Week 6 is versus Kansas City. 7 is at Green Bay. 8 is at Denver. And 10 is at home hosting Tampa Bay.
Let's stretch.
That's going to be a rough stretch. The good news, though, is that between Denver and Tampa Bay is the bye. So obviously we can't predict the schedule because there's a lot. We can't predict records this early. I think that's kind of an act in futility because so many things can change.
Well, yeah, in Green Bay, we might be going against Blake Bortles.
Right.
Right.
And in
Wow.
Denver, we might be going against Aaron Rodgers. Who knows?
One thing that I noticed is that some of the teams that we might be, that are on the schedule and that we may or may not be worried about, we have new head coaches. We've got the Falcons have Arthur Smith, who I'm not even sure I know who Arthur Smith is, but he's the head coach now.
The Eagles.
We've got the Chargers have a new, brand new head coach, Brandon Staley. He's the head coach of the Chargers now. The Chiefs, even though I know you're going to laugh at me, but the Chiefs had quite a bit of coaching turnover, not head coach, but they replaced their wide receiver, their linebackers, their running back coach this offseason. And then we got other guys, LaFleur's only in his third season. Vic Fangio with the Broncos is only in his third season. So I know that's probably not a huge factor, but I think it does give us a little bit of course, we've got Ron Rivera, but Ron Rivera's, been a head coach for a long time. So I don't think it has as much of an impact on us as it.
You got to add the Eagles, John. I can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but you got a rookie coach up there too.
Oh my gosh. The guy who's talking about we're going to have easy playbooks and we're going to do Rubik's cubes and we're going to have rock, paper, scissors to see your competitiveness. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
I think that the Chiefs also had a major offensive line turnover. O-lines are not just plug and play. The reason the Hogs were so good is because they had years and years of chemistry together and they played together and they knew each other's moves. They knew when they were farting. You know what I mean? These guys are they cut Fisher and brought in a guy that was the same price as him and was just like, sorry, you're gone. So I don't know. I don't think we beat the Chiefs. I think Mahomes is just unless we take a playbook out of Tampa and just blitz the crap out of Mahomes to make him throw it off his back foot, they'll get us. I think they get us. I think Buffalo is a toss-up. I think Tampa, I just can't. And I'm a Redskins fan to death, but betting against Tom Brady is a homer move. It's a homer move. Seattle, 60-40 lose. And then that's 3. I've got 3 losses there so far. And then I put 2 more in there with division, with the NFC East. I think we go 10-6, 11-5.
So I'm with Derek. I always say we're going to win 10 games because I'm a homer.
But 10-7 now. We would go 10-7 now.
I do look at the games at the beginning of the season because I think it's really good to get off to a good start, which is something we haven't always done. And looking at the first 5 games, I could see us going 4-1 in those first 5 games. I really could, because Buffalo is really the only game that you would say we are absolutely would have to have a great game to beat Buffalo in Buffalo. But if you look at those other games, the Saints are on the downturn. We're playing them at our place. The Falcons, I'm not a believer in the Falcons. They won 4 or 5 games last year. And I think the Giants and Chargers were going to take them. So I mean, that would be a hell of a start to go 4-1, not to jinx anything.
That's what I've always looked at first when the schedules come out. I go right to that opener and start doing the domino math. You got to win the opener. So what I liked right off the top is the Chargers we're not playing Mahomes out of the gate. We're playing a second-year quarterback with a rookie head coach at home, 1:00 Sunday. I like our chances in that game. But if you don't win it, then all of a sudden you're facing your first division game on a short week and you're looking 0-2 is a big problem. So to me, that first one is always, I swear it's the most important game of the year, at least in my muddled brain. I think that's a big game. So I went today and looked at Rivera's record on opening days. He's 5-5 in his 10 seasons as a head coach. Which is not great news. The better news is that he went 0-3 in his first 3 seasons. So he's been 5-2 since then on opening days. I just wanted to get a sense of, from that, if I could, how quickly he gets his team ready to play early in the year.
Well, we shocked Philly last year, right? That was the 8 sack.
Yeah. because nobody knew what
against
to
Phil-
expect from us. This year, they'll
Yeah.
know what to expect from us. They've got a year's worth of film to look at.
Now we just got to beat them up.
We just got to beat them up. We got the defense has to control Justin Herbert,
Herbert.
and keep him in line, not let him go crazy on you. And we need to control the ball, and Fitzmagic needs to throw it to our guys. But I
doesn't
like our
seem like
chances there.
What's up, Mike?
I'll say it doesn't seem like we do anything special on defense. We don't really blitz. We line 4 up, and you got to beat our 4. Our 4 beats your 4 every time.
I think,
Well, I think part of that also has to do with the fact that our linebackers are not
I
blitzing
think we're going to
specialists.
do more. I think we're
I'm
going to
just
see a
saying,
lot.
They can look at the film all they want.
Yeah,
we're
we
not
can
really
change it.
There's
Yeah.
no super crazy schemes that we're running, or edge blitzes or anything. We're just lining 4 up on a line and going for it. And so watch the tape you want. You got Haskins tape. You don't have Fitzmagic.
I think you're going to see more of that this year, Mike. I think Jack Del Rio is going to go full Richie Pettibone with this defense.
And Ioannidis is coming back. Don't forget, that's one of the reasons we weren't getting that interior push last year.
It's not an accident. We brought in a William Jackson to play some man press from time to time. I think he's going to scheme up some more shit. But the good news is you're 100% right. The reason that we used to dominate like in 91 is we could pressure with the down 4. And you can do all your crazy stuff in the back. So we got to win the opener. That was why I went down that road.
So a weird quirk I just realized looking at these dates, our first preseason game is August 12th. Our first regular season game is September 12th. There's 5 weeks between our first preseason game and our first regular season game.
I thought we were going to 3 preseason games this year.
We are.
Because I'm looking at my ESPN app has
5 weeks.
The ESPN app is still showing us with 4 preseason games. They don't name them, but they're on there. That's just a mistake, I guess.
Yeah, because they took it off and put it on a regular season, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I was confused when I saw that.
So looking at that, if I fast forward in the little calendar here, August 12th is a Thursday. The following Sunday would be the 15th. Then you have the 22nd, the 29th, the 5th, and then the 12th. So are there going to be bye weeks built into the preseason?
I wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind if the whole preseason was a bye. I'd be in favor of that.
That would be better if you're gonna, because the coaches want to see film, but they also rush to try to go from 90 to 53 and evaluate that. Give them 5 weeks of preseason with 3 games to let them have more camp, more time,
I think it's a good
more
idea.
practices, all of that stuff.
Then you bench all the starting group. You got your starting however many, you bench them and just let those other guys trying to make it play the last 2. I hate preseason.
Right.
I hate preseason. Ever since Portis blew his knee out, done.
I liked the first preseason game because it was the first chance I got to see the laundry running around on the field. And then I liked the third one because you saw the starters for a while, like in the first half. The second and fourth weeks, I'd have them on in the background, but I'd do my ironing or something.
I'm betting with COVID that the coaches around the league have probably pushed the decision makers to give them more time before the season to evaluate, because they're not, the whole Players Association is pushing back about non-mandatory, team event participation, and they just don't have a lot of it. Gets less every year as far as the actual time and pads they're allowed to have. So they're probably campaigning for it in the background.
Because I feel like this is a late start, September 12th. Why do I feel like usually camp breaks right around my birthday, which is the 31st, and then it's usually about 2 weeks until 31st of July. Then it's about 2 weeks until your first preseason game, and then it's usually right around the first weekend in September. We're talking about the season starting, and we're almost 2 weeks in before our first game.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the calendar and see if that was just the vagaries of how the weekends fell this year. But
right.
So what's the date on the final game?
January 9th.
Yep.
9th of January. Okay.
In New York, could be snow.
At New York, baby.
So
Yeah,
we're talking
they'll
the
be done
second
by
week in
then.
February for the Super Bowl at this point.
Yeah.
Just saying, snow game, that could be fun.
Oh, we could see snow there. We could see snow at Philly week.
Oh, you might
15.
see it in Green Bay or Denver.
Nah, not in October.
Denver, we could.
I
Denver,
can't say
we
that.
could.
It snowed last Sunday here for about 4 hours.
We could see. We could have that random snow against the Eagles here at home on January 2nd too. But
Sure.
this makes you wonder how things are going to shake out. I see a lot of early home games. If I'm just looking at week 11 to week 18, we're talking five. What is that? 5 of the last 8 games are going to be on the road.
Yeah, and 3 of the last 4 on the road division games. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So we talked about, the back ending of all but one of the NFC East games, but we didn't really talk about who do we think got better this offseason. That's a whole other pod probably, but just with a quick drive-by, do you guys feel like did Washington keep pace with the other teams getting better, or do you think the Giants and the Eagles and Cowboys got better this offseason, and where do you stand on that?
I'm going to go verse on that one. I think we did better than everyone. We upgraded in wide receiver. We upgraded in corner. We upgraded in quarterback. We've got depth in O-line. We're plugging in places there. We upgraded in linebacker. We have the core defense come back. The only thing that I need is to sign Kerrigan, but that's just my heart. Everyone thinks Dak Prescott's going to come back and just step right into where he was. Look, Alex Smith is a perfect example of you want to see a man come back and do it again, but that leg is not the same. It just isn't the same. He's not going to be the same. He's not going to step out on the field and just be thrown for 4,000 yards. They didn't upgrade in New York, and they're still trying to rehab Saquon Barkley. Barkley's still trying to rehab. Jalen Hurts was benched the last time I saw him, and nobody has really upgraded much anywhere except Washington.
Well, I think in New York, they added some outside, like some receiving talent that they didn't have. They gave Jones weapons. They didn't give him any more protection. They didn't get him like a stud offensive lineman, which I thought they had to do. But they've given him weapons. He's got no more excuses. There's a lot of pressure on him. I think the Giants maybe got a little better, but I don't consider them to have really jumped. Dallas, like Mike suggests, a lot of it's going to depend on how much of Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott. I think he'll probably come back effectively throwing the ball. He's not going to come back running all over the field and extending plays right off the bat. And he might get hurt again. I mean, and they've added a lot of new bodies to the defense, but they're kids. They got a bunch of rookies, so it's hard to see what they did. The Eagles, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not a Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's a stud NFL quarterback. I think he's kind of a guy who's going to get some yards for you running, and he's going to win some games with plays like that. But I don't see him standing in the pocket and beating you in November. I think we did at least as well as anybody, if not better. So I'm feeling pretty good about where we stand.
One more thing before we move on. Wait, one more thing. And Ezekiel Elliott is 1 year worse of fumbles, head cases, belly shirts. That dude is 1 year worse. And they didn't upgrade at running back. Yeah, right. He's eating everyone up and jumping into Salvation Army buckets, but he's fumbling everywhere and he's a head case.
They're a different team if he comes out like he did in his rookie season. They are a different team when he's playing at that level, but it's hard to understand. Something's not right there for some reason. He just hasn't been able to keep paid.
And he got paid. There's a lot of money that you can't get rid of him. Nobody's taking that contract on for a running back.
What do you think, Derek?
To respond, I think on the surface, you look at the Giants, and they probably made the most moves. Galladay. So week 2 of the Giants is probably going to be a lot different than week 18 of the Giants. Just because I don't have a lot of confidence that the team on week 2, the New York team we see at home, is going to be the same New York team we see in come week 18. They will probably put up a lot more of a fight. I believe in Galladay, but I don't believe Galladay is going to give them 17 games. I think he's a talented player, but I don't think he's going to be able to stay healthy. Same thing with Saquon Barkley. If they treat him the way that they've treated him the last couple seasons, he's going to have a similar type breakdown because of just the way that they use him. Saquon Barkley should be used like Alvin Kamara, not like Adrian Peterson. They're built differently. And they're using him between the tackles, between the guards. They're using him to stay in pass pro. They're using him to do a lot of things when he's an explosive open field ball carrier. If they change their tune to where he's catching more balls than he's running, then that could be a whole different conversation. But they haven't shown that propensity yet. So I think the Giants have upgraded, but I don't know that they have upgraded for 17 games. The Cowboys are going to have a natural upgrade at quarterback, but I don't, again, believe that it's going to take them from a 4-12 team to a 14-3 team. I think they're still going to have struggles because there's still only one ball. And when you're paying Cooper, you're paying Elliott, the kind of money you're paying them, justifying throwing it to Gallup and those other guys, it's going to get a lot harder, especially when Jerry Jones is going to want to see his paychecks making paychecks, you know. Eagles, I think the Eagles legitimately just said, we're so far over the cap, we can't do anything. And we're so far behind the rest of the division, we're just going to suck for 2 years and we're just going to rebuild. And I hate to say it that way. Well, I don't hate to say it that way because I hate the Eagles, but I think that's probably the smartest thing they could have done, to try to piece together some offseason this year where they've put together playmakers to sell jerseys and fill seats. It's not going to be conducive for their long-term benefit. They have done some things. I don't think about them now. I think about the fact that if Carson Wentz starts in Indy for 75% of the games and they make the playoffs, then in reality, I could start in Indy for 75% of the games and they make the playoffs because that defense is so good that second round conditional second turns into a first. Then they also traded back and got another first. So they've got 3 first-round picks next year, in theory. Then they've got 2 first-round picks the following year.
Yep.
So you're talking about 5 first-round picks over the next 2 seasons. Well, guess who's going to be coming off of their high within the next 2 to 3 seasons? It's going to be Dallas. So the Eagles are set up, if they're smart, to compete with a young team like Washington for the next however long after 2 to 3 seasons. So they don't scare me. But to the point, I think we upgraded more because of where we upgraded. We had a picnic table at quarterback last year, and we beat these teams. And we went from having, nothing, literally the worst rated quarterback position, to having one of the most efficient deep ball throwers over the last 3 seasons coming in, and now he's our starting quarterback. Or at least we assume he's our starting quarterback. He's in competition to do that. Add to that more playmakers. Add to that more defensive talent on an already talented team at middle linebacker, at corner. Nobody's talking about William Jackson. Everybody's
I'm talking about him. I
Davis.
think that's a game changer on defense to have that guy.
I mean, we have, but I'm talking about the media. Nobody's talking about William Jackson.
Good.
Well,
You're talking Jamin Davis. Sorry, not real quick. You're talking Jamin Davis and a press shutdown type corner added to a defense that was top 5 in pass statistically. Now it's a little jaded because we were playing some pretty bad teams and some bad quarterbacks, so that's going to be the key. But I think we've upgraded plenty to not only keep pace, but I don't get why we're not the favorite to win the division next year. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, because Dallas.
We're never the favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the one thing, and I've said this before, I don't think it matters what Dallas has on offense or what New York has on offense or what Philadelphia has on offense, because I really feel like our defense with another year in the system, I mean, we forget this was a brand new defense, brand new coaches, unfamiliar with the players. Look what they did in their first year. I think this coming year, it's going to be the coming out party for the Washington defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if we set the NFL sack record in in 2021. And Daniel Jones can have Galladay, whoever he wants to be throwing the ball to, but if he's on his ass, 8 or 9 times a game, it's not going to matter.
And
And
that's the big thing is all the things the Giants did. They still have Daniel Jones. Do you realize how many times he's fumbled the football? Even the ones that he averages, it's like 2.3 fumbles per game or something.
Right.
He's Kirk Cousins in blue.
It's worse. And it's crazy. I think he's played, maybe it's 2.3 turnovers per game, but it was something crazy. Like he's played in 16 games, right? He was his rookie last year, right?
Jones was a second-year guy last year, right?
Second year last year. Okay.
Came in with
2 games. I want to say he has either turned the ball over or it's something like 50 something times. It's crazy.
Well, you saw him running to the end zone and he tripped over his own feet. Like I get a fluke play, but that's Daniel Jones. That's what he does.
He's definitely a guy. If you lay hands on him, bad things happen for him.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
sweating young love laying hands on people.
Here's something we haven't talked about. 2 years ago, our head coach was a guy who probably shouldn't have been a head coach in the NFL. In a very short period of time, what's your instant reaction? Who's the best head coach in the NFC East?
I can't not say Rivera.
Well,
after what Rivera walked into, McCarthy walked into a golden ticket, and they won 4 games.
I don't think much of McCarthy. I think he rode Aaron Rodgers to a big contract. But what I'm seeing now, John touched on this a second ago. This is year 2 of Rivera's program. If you're going to see the big ascension in a program, it's generally in year 2 when he's had a year to get his guys lined up and get his program in place. Everyone's on the same page. We've upgraded in talent. And I'm looking around the NFC East and saying, who's going to out coach us week in and week out in the NFC East? Nobody.
I don't think Rivera is the greatest game manager. I mean, he's never had that. And I'm not saying that to what I'm not putting words in your mouth, Mark, but I don't think he's a great in-game coach. We saw it we saw it with some of the weird, I'm going to put Dwayne Haskins in there and lose the game for us. Or put it on Dwayne Haskins' arm and then in the post game say, gee, I don't know really why I did that, but no,
that's fair. That's fair. I guess.
But he definitely knows how to win games, and he's not going to do. I mean, he has that Riverboat Ron moniker, but he really isn't a guy that does a lot of crazy gambling. He'll just do it.
And he also doesn't call plays, right? He might make the decision on whether we're going for it on 4th down or not, but Scott Turner runs the offense and Jack Del Rio runs the defense.
So that's who we're going to find out about this year. Is we're going to find out
overtime.
Scott Turner, we're going to find out a lot about.
Yes, because now we have a quarterback that can actually make all the throws and execute that offense. So we're going to find out whether he's a really innovative OC, like he kind of made Taylor Heineke look like Joe Montana for a game. We're going to find out this year a little bit more about him. I think it's going to turn out to be a lot better offensive coordinator than people think.
Your point is fair. So I guess when I'm thinking about who's the best coach in the NFC East, when I think of Ron, I think of a guy who prepares a team to win, who knows how to organize it and get it all on the same page. And then hopefully he's learned his lessons about in-game and he turns that part over to the specialists, Turner, Jack Del Rio. I think coaching wise, we're in pretty good shape.
What did you say, Mike?
Go ahead, Mike.
I said, and he's also the guy that'll go for 2 against the Giants instead of kicking a field goal and going into overtime.
Look how much we'd have loved him if that play worked, though.
Sure,
we'd be singing his praises.
But when you'd go on a riverboat like that, you're either going to be the hero or the villain.
Yeah,
true that.
He lost, so he gets to be held to the fire. But yeah, I mean, listen, last year he came in and he dealt with cancer. He dealt with all that stuff. He dealt with Haskins. All these games that Haskins started, we could have won. That the ones he lost, we could have beat Seattle. There was a moment there in that game where we were hitting Russell Wilson so hard that I was like, they're going 3 and out every time.
Yep.
But now so are we. You know what I mean? Now so are we. Oh, wait, he threw an interception. Gosh dang it, And the defense was coming back in 3 and outs. They got no rest. Now we have a chance, and he has a chance to do something. And, with Jared Patterson as our starting running back, we're going to go all the way.
I think what we
I heard
see
you.
with
You tried to
Rivera.
ignore
I
that. Tried
heard
not to hear.
Mark brought up the ghost of Jay Gruden, pot smoking Jay Gruden. Thanks a lot for that, Mark. But I think
Here
the
for you,
difference,
bro.
the stark difference you see in him and Rivera is Rivera has those guys ready to play. We're not going to win every game, but I think last year, even with Haskins under center, it wasn't like the team took the field and we were just out of it within 2 series and the guys stopped playing in the second half. And we're almost always, I think one of the best things I saw last season was we played better in the second half than the first half, harder and better as the game went on, not the reverse, which is what we'd seen under Gruden.
But
So
the
not to
worst,
revert, I just looked it up.
the worst
in-
thing that we did was that we had no offensive opening drive touchdowns all
The whole
season.
season, yeah.
No
So
opening
Daniel
drive
Jones
touchdowns. That hurts.
in 2 seasons, Daniel Jones has 22 interceptions, and he has I just lost it. 29 fumbles.
Yeah.
Damn.
You're 51 times he's potentially handing the ball to the other team. So sorry, I just wanted to confirm my
And
stats
if
there.
we see that, then Jack Del Rio sees it, and they spend the whole week heading into that game
Swatting
thinking,
pillows
get after the
out of
ball.
people's hands and
Get after
and
the
pool
ball.
noodles.
That's what they
What
do.
was that?
That's
Was
what,
that drill?
that's the drill because that's why Montez Sweat was knocking so many balls up in the air. He was doing it against Pittsburgh, and then he did it again against Dallas. The guy Del Rio told you, if you can't get to the quarterback, put your big hand up in the air.
Yep.
And
Make
something
something
happened.
happen.
You have that clock, 1001, 1002. I'm not far enough. It's time to look up and get my hands up.
Yep.
Well, I
So-
guess you can't do a schedule react podcast without throwing down here, right? We have to throw out instant reactions. How many wins we got on this schedule?
He's
Sitting
gonna
here
try to
today
go this in here.
on May 12th.
Are
I
you guys
remember
looking at the
17
schedule?
games. Not 11-5 anymore. You're gonna be 12-6 or 12-5 or 11-6.
Tell you what, let me do it differently. Are we a double-digit win team in 2021?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we get to 10?
I don't know, but we're a playoff team. That's what I'll commit to that.
So
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know
wins.
because I don't see the NFC East magically being transformed into a dominant conference again. We're the up and coming team, and that's saying something. I'm just
Well, no
saying
one's going to
that.
run away. If anyone's going to run away with it, it'll be us. I'm
It's
thinking.
gonna right.
So I just don't think. I think there's going to be. I don't think it might not even take double digit wins, even with an expanded season.
Yeah, 9 and 8 could win the division.
Mhm.
Especially with this division. Everybody playing Tampa. Why not? You don't think
No,
9 and 8
no, no.
wins?
No. I'm 9-5. I'm sorry. Excuse my language here. 9-8 is not even on my radar. We're 10-7 or we're 11-6. We are double digit. Easy. We went 7-9 with Haskins and a half a leg Alex Smith. There's no way we don't get 11 wins.
I'm putting us in the 10, give or take one.
It's hard to argue against it. It's hard to argue against it. And that's being realistic, looking at what this team was capable of doing last year with what we had at quarterback, the most important position on the field. And then the upgrade that we're going to have this year to that. I don't see how you can't look at this team and say, this team is marketably better. And so here's what we think about. If Fitzpatrick is the quarterback last year, how many wins do we have?
11. I think we're a 10 or 11 win team.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that thought. Our quarterback play was so bad for the first half of the season.
With the
For the
upgrade,
first 3 quarters of the season. It was
with the
because everybody
addition
wants
of-
to anoint Alex Smith, and I love Alex Smith's story. 2 of his wins were against Philly, where they didn't want to win, and San Fran, where the defense outscored San Francisco by themselves, and he didn't even finish that game. But everybody
All
wants
he
to count
did
that
was
in
turn
his
it
5
over.
wins. Huh?
no turnovers, and he managed the clock.
I know,
That's what
but
Alex Smith is. Alex Smith is a game manager who will dink and dunk all the way down the field. That chews up the
He's
clock,
going again.
and he doesn't turn it over.
The only thing we were missing on offense last year to make it perfect was a butt fumble. If we'd had that, it would have been one for the ages because it was pretty ugly.
I get the game manager. But there's a large segment of this fan base, and I love my fellow fans that scream 5-1 is a starter, 5-1. People wanted to pay him his salary due this year because he was 5-1. So what can we do with Alex for 17 games? Good luck finding out because he won't be there. But
So
5-1 is just,
upgrading our running back with Jarrett Patterson. If Gibson now doesn't have to go. No, listen. Gibson doesn't have to go 17 games full time. Patrick Barber's not a running back. I'm sorry. He's a fullback trying to play running back. You don't run McKissick up the middle. That's a Chris Thompson move. Patterson with Gibson, that's automatically an upgrade at that position. Samuels with McLaurin, that's automatically an upgrade at that position. Logan Thomas on his second year starting up, that's automatically going to be better for him. It's that much more right now. We've upgraded at these positions. There's no way we're not double digit. There just isn't a way we're double digits.
I think it's going to break down to that stretch we talked about. Sorry, as I pour myself another beverage.
And staying healthy, right? The old staying healthy thing. That's
And who gets hot? Who gets hot those last 5 weeks?
Yeah,
It's huge. Any team can get hot for a stretch, and if we're not the team that's hot during that 5-game stretch, that could be a problem.
And that's kind of my point with the running back. When Gibson got hurt, they knew Patrick Barber's just not going to run it the way Gibson does.
Peyton.
Gibson is a bad boy when he gets that ball in his hands. He just did, but now he's out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to key on the run. We can pin our ears back and rush the quarterback and cover the receivers. We don't have to worry about stacking the box. And with McLaurin, you just double McLaurin and Steven Sims is going to drop it. He is. So now we got Samuels who can catch that ball too.
Yeah, Samuels
and Humphrey. I don't think Adam Humphries should be overlooked. Nobody's talking about that addition either. And him playing a true slot receiver, I'm not saying he's going to catch 100 balls here, but he could have some pretty effective moments. You know what I'm saying? Where how many times wasn't there a play that Steven Sims was wide open in the flat and he dropped it and it was the difference in the game?
Yes,
because it would have extended a drive.
Did you say a play?
Well, I'm just thinking about there was one play where he was on an out route and the ball was a little low, but it went right off his hands. And if I'm not mistaken, that would have extended the drive and we would have basically iced the game or something, or vice versa. We were within field goal range or something. I can't remember now.
I think the offense got a lot better and we did it in like the sneakiest way ever. There were no like big overspending, huge signings. I mean, Samuels is a big signing, but he wasn't the most talked about free agent wide receiver. But between him and adding, if Reyes works out somehow, if that little project comes to fruition, and Humphreys, and if the running back, the little guy, works out, and of course John Bates, we haven't really mentioned him either. We don't know what he can do. We could be a lot better, and of course Fitzmagic. None of those signings like were headline grabbing signings per se, but I think we got a lot better. I mean,
and Harmon's working hard. Harmon, don't forget Harmon.
We even did unsexy things like sign Leno yesterday from Chicago, which isn't going to excite anybody outside of like guys like us who have been following the team. That's a really solid signing.
And by the way, he said the reason he signed with us was because of Ron Rivera.
There you go.
Wow.
Let him mentor Cosme, and it's really hard to see that we stepped back anywhere.
Oh, and you know what his signing of Leno also did? It pissed off another O lineman who's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, or he's just going to leave.
It pissed him. What?
That, or he's just going to leave.
No,
that's a strange dude, right?
But it just pissed off another lineman who's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. And I like my linemen mean. I like them mean and nasty.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they play. That's why the Pouncies were so good. The Pouncies are jerks, and they were good linemen. Richie Incognito.
Yeah.
We don't want them that nasty.
Yeah.
So just to throw it out there, in 2020, the team total at the quarterback position in 16 games was 389 completions, 64.7% passer rate, just under 3,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Ryan Fitzpatrick's last season, he only played in 9 games last year because they had Tua. 2019, he played in 15 games, which is the closest kind of comp. He was 311 for 502. It doesn't have the percentage right here. Whereas our quarterbacks last year were 389 for 601. He had 3,500 yards, and his touchdown to interception ratio was, I just lost it. I want to say it was 20 plus to single digits. If we have that season, last season, we easy double-digit win. We don't lose to the Giants twice. We don't lose to Matt Stafford and Detroit on a boneheaded accidental bump into 15-yard penalty for a 61-yard field goal. We don't lose to, there's a lot of games that we can look to and just say, well, that we shouldn't have lost that game. We shouldn't have lost them at all.
Well, the big difference this year, in addition to Fitzmagic, is we've got some wide receivers. We're not going to be throwing to Logan Thomas. We should expect him to have a much less dazzling year this year because there's going to be other people getting the ball that hold on to it.
Well, no one's going to sneak. He's not going to sneak up on anybody this year either.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to be a mismatch though. You're going to try and put a linebacker or a safety on Logan Thomas, and he's going to do something. I think that yeah, because Alex Smith loves the dink and dunk, and he loves the tight end for sure. But I think Logan still has a lot. He's going to produce a lot. I think he's going to have a big production year.
You know what's kind of fun about this?
I'm gonna interject here because I think we're about 2 minutes shy of an hour, and I want to make Mark really happy. And I'm gonna stop recording.
Overall, I think we're pretty happy with the schedule, with a little caveat of we don't really know what that last 5 weeks, what that's going to mean.
That's where it's all going to matter.
That's kind of the mystery of the whole thing.
Well, I think what it's going to mean is even if we're a couple of games out, we're not out. It keeps that right. We're in it right until the very last game.
That's true, but it's true for everyone. So keep that.
No, I agree. All you got to do is win out though at the end there, right? And you're making up a full game a week. I have to mention within a minute now to keep Derek happy.
I don't know. I'm just guessing, looking at the time and remembering what time we started.
In week 4, we go down to Atlanta. That's about the time that Kyle Pitts will start to be showing up on Sports Center and all that. Mm-hmm. And who do we have? We're going to have this young rookie linebacker who's going to spend a lot of the day covering Kyle Pitts. When we were doing it was, I guess, the mock draft, and I guess when we were doing our reaction to the draft, when I was reading about Del Rio and Rivera having studied Jamin Davis, the film they looked at was him covering Kyle Pitts at Florida. Mm-hmm. And they said that he shadowed him. That's what sold them on Jamin Davis. So week 4, we get to see the proof in the pudding.
When we knock Ryan out of the game and AJ McCarron is under center, that's going to help greatly too. So
I hear you.
All right.
You guys rock.
It's been a pleasure, boys.
All right, guys.